So now's the time where we get to do some millennial bashing. So what are some of the things that we hear, Dave, what are some of the issues that you've seen with millennials in the workplace?
There's no, it's to their schedule. Yeah, it'd be a 7:30 dispatch, but if they have something to take care of in the morning,
Yeah.
or they want to do something at the end of the day, they're not committed. They're committed to themselves, but I don't see the 110% of the work ethic in the young kids today.
They focus much more on a work-life balance than we did. It's more important to them.
Yeah, what can you do for me?
So I'm not going to deny where this comes from, but I'm going to share a little bit about think of how the different generations are formed. And so I put this quote up here just so you can read that people have been bashing the generation younger than them since apparently, as we said in Bill and Ted's Excellent Venture, Socrates. That
Socrates was well respected.
So your parents said the same thing about you guys, and my parents are saying the same thing about me. We're going to hell in a handbasket. So generations are framed by three key factors: the events that as they were coming of age, technology, and parenting styles. So this is my favorite part: is don't throw glass stones, boomers in the room, because you were the ones that gave us ribbons for ninth place and just for showing up. If we had a bad grade in school, it couldn't be Timmy's fault that Timmy wasn't the dumb one. It must have been you, the teacher, that you're the problem. And they would come in and complain until Timmy took that D to an A, not because he had to retake the test, because the parents were whining and moaning. As well as they've been scheduling. We've been scheduled t-ball, soccer, violin, piano, whatever it is. This has been our lives. And then the horror stories are the ones where you hear moms still scheduling their classes in college, and it's still happening, right? So that's the helicopter parent style. So used to being babysitted. So how do you apply that to the workplace? And again, not a bad thing for any new employee, by the way, but think really hard about creating a mentorship program, especially for your young cats. That's what they've grown to. That's how they were raised. That's something that they're accustomed to. That's how you're going to get the most out of them. 2, technology. So yes, that is a millennial party, and it is sometimes depressing to go out, for dinner and everyone's buried in, Facebook, and I'm right here talking, not having a conversation. That happens. So as coming of age, when we came of age, the smartphones started to become prevalent. What does that mean? We're used to instant gratification. We got a question, we get an answer right away. And so how does that apply to the workplace? Is the kind of the days of the annual review and then see you next year that have to be dead. One, that's a dumb idea anyways. So think about, sure, you can have annual goals, but think about monthly meetings and weekly and even daily check-ins on that progress. Not a bad thing anyways from an alignment standpoint for all your employees. But again, millennials are looking for that and expect it. And they want it, by the way. It's not that you're babysitting or hovering. On the contrary, they're craving it. And then the third piece, so Bruce, I'll actually challenge you on work-life balance. So work-life balance was actually stemmed from the Gen X generation. And where that really came from was in the 80s recession, where for the first time they saw their parents say, you go to work for one company, you work your way up, and after 60 years you get a gold watch, and that was first class, right? And then when they saw everyone get laid off en masse, their reaction to that was, well, obviously when things get tough, you don't have my back, so screw you. It's me first, because you don't have my back. And where millennials have taken this to the next level is what we call work-life blend. So, Glenn, we had a lot of conversation yesterday on purpose. This is where if a millennial believes in what they do every day and what they come to work and to bring it, that a millennial may show up late, Dave, but has no problem, taking that call at 2 a.m. Now, with the drivers in the scheduled workforce, that's tough, right? You don't have that flexibility that a millennial is looking for. But if you give them something that they're passionate about, something that they believe in, they have no problem taking that call at 2 a.m., working on that memo, late at night, waking up early, doing it again, leaving lunch early, going home, but then working again at 7. That's kind of this, it's all in one. So it's a different mentality if you set them up in the right position. And Glenn, what we talked about yesterday was with trucking being rigid and rigid, how do you provide that flexibility? How do you provide that purpose? And I think that's what Kevin Birch was trying to do today. I think Trucking Move America Forward has started that push, but I'm not sure, it hasn't resonated yet with the rest of America, or they're not hearing that message. And I think that's the challenge of the folks in the room is it's going to have to be a ground roots efforts with your company saying, this is how you make the world a better place. That's how, so Avatar Fleet, when we start, that's what we say. Hey, we exist to make the road safer. And we say that, people go, oh, I'm interested. Well, how do you do that? Well, we have services and software that help the trucking industry recruit, hire, train, retain truck drivers. Interesting. How? What do you do? We have software and services, right? So if I had said we were software for the trucking industry, we would have taken a nap right away and moved on. And so you need to think about, there's a great TED Talk by Simon Sinek called Why, How, What? Think about framing that your recruiting as in this fashion. Why do you exist? How do you do it? What is it? So I enter this slide in here again thinking about our personas, because we're talking about demographics here. So just need to understand that each generation is more diverse than the one before it. And so to have your ads reflect that. People want to work at a place where people look like them. So if you're just making sure that, one, there's about 3 or 4 stock images that the entire industry uses. Please stop using those as we talked about yesterday. Use your own drivers and make sure they reflect. One, your drivers are going to be excited, kind of like Southwest Airlines. Those are real Southwest Airlines employees in those commercials. That gets them excited. That's something they're proud about. That's cool. 2, it shows you that, or it shows future prospective employees what it looks like to work here. Hey, that guy looks like me. Simply put, but that's true. It's how it works in advertising. So you may have heard pain points, from a sales perspective before. We're just applying marketing and sales here to the driver recruiting process. So Tricia, you have an example here of pain points is what hurts a driver. Why would somebody think about leaving one of your competitors? What do you hear grumblings on the phone about?
I can tell you why they wouldn't leave us, because they have problems.
Start there.
Because they have to touch the freight and it's heavy. Is one of the main things.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, but we have to have them to do it, or retention time at the bakeries and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Anyone else hear anything else of why they would leave? Well, this is why they were thinking about leaving their current job to join you. This is a beautiful thing. This is that gold mine. Karen, what did you used to hear on the phones when you would hear a driver saying, my current job stinks because?
I'm not getting enough miles, so therefore I'm not getting paid. The recruiter lied to me.
Not you, though.
Heck no.
So that's a whole nother piece of a conversation of setting expectations properly. So by the way, we have, if you want a sheet actually that we do with you guys, Bruce, we got a generic version of setting expectations that the driver manager and the driver sign off on of, here's what my job looks like. If this ever changed, let me know. And it's a two-way street. You're holding the driver accountable and he's holding your driver manager accountable. So pain points simply do boil down, tend to be to money, home time, how are we going to affect my family. The question is, how are you setting those expectations to prevent that in the first place? But your recruiters, when they hear these things, this is the gold mine, right? This is what you're going to keep raveling, keep saying, well, who are you not getting home to see that you were promised to see? Is it Betty? Was it Linda? Whoever it is, keep making that pitch as personal as possible. So this is what we dive into from the recruiting process. So when we're doing our market studies, we intentionally use the phrase competing alternatives. This is our direct competition, indirect competition, and then completely outside the industry. So Bruce, in the tanker world, you got anyone else that's hauling fuel? Direct competition. LTL, maybe from a day-to-day standpoint, getting home every night, hourly pay typically. It depends on what your pay schedule is. That may be an indirect competitor, but kind of looks like you. An overload truck driver, slamming doors, still CDL, still driving truck, but it's an indirect competitor from the day-to-day job. And then we know when the summer happens and housing booms start, that we lose a lot of folks to construction. Kind of similar thing of blue-collar job, similar education level. I can make a similar amount of pay, but be home more often. And so this is a direct competition to really the industry as a whole of getting folks in this. And this is another spiel of what we should be doing to publish to get folks who are 18 years old behind the wheel, that we lose them behind this. But that's a whole other conversation for a different day. So again, when we're breaking down our competing alternatives, we focus on our direct competition. Those are the guys down the street. Indirect competition, because it's real. We lose folks all the time in the over-the-road sector to LTL, to local, to whatever it may be. And have an eye of where you are in the world of what may lose folks to outside your industry. So the value curve is a simple tool that we use. It's just a quick, simple visualization of the market research. Now there's a lot of research behind the scenes that got us to get here, but we figured out we've got big buckets of pay, sign-on bonus, benefits, home time, equipment. This is for a fictitious company, Bob's Trucking. And through the research, we determined on this scale, okay, Bob's pay was higher than our direct competition, and we had a much better family atmosphere. These are the two things we're going to focus on our ads. Now, when we talked about good pay, good equipment, those are what we call platitudes. Those are things that you can't differentiate. That just anyone can say this stuff. What is family atmosphere? Great. Everyone says it. Everyone says they're a family-owned company. Maybe not Keenan, but most people do. Pay, what does that mean? Good pay. I'm great. Everyone tells me I'm going to get paid well. Tell me more specifics. So the value curve just helps you focus in on where you're going to dive into and what's going to be your purple cow. So our format that we use, just as simple to create your brand statement, is this. For this persona, and you'll have 4 or 5 or 6, with these pain points, I want to get home more often, not getting paid, etc. With these other competing alternatives, we had the best driving job because. It's a kind of long run-on sentence, but what it does is these is your guiding principle. This is not your new ad campaign, this is not your new pitch. This is just your statement for your marketing people as their guiding principle when they're breaking down and creating campaigns.